What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the Level 10 Coaching YouTube channel. I am Joelle. I am the CEO, owner, head coach at Level 10. We are a health and fitness coaching company. We are a team of 10 evidence-based coaches, and we're here to help and educate you on all things training and nutrition. So, Alex, you want to start off and just introduce yourself briefly?
Hi, I'm Alex. I am a nutrition coach at Level 10. I mainly work with clients that need reverse dieting. They may have gut issues, and we work to manage overall stress.
Awesome. Tori?
I am Tori. I'm a training and nutrition coach at Level 10, and I typically work with clients who've struggled with a long history of past food restriction, and most of my clients are on the younger side, so they are maybe single students, juggling work and school at the same time, and most of my clients are weight loss clients.
And Courtney.
I am Courtney. I am a nutrition coach with Level 10, and I mostly work with women who have gut issues, gut dysfunction, hormone issues, reverse dieting, weight loss. So
Awesome. And today we're going to talk to you guys about stress management. I know that the training coaches have been taking over on a series of topics around the gym and progress. And so the rest of us wanted to, or some of us at least, wanted to talk a little bit more about stress management. And while that does tie into your training a little bit, we at Level 10 talk a lot about stress management with our clients. And so what's really important and what we try to hammer home with our clients is that stress management is not just deep breaths and journaling. Stress management plays into our physical stress, our emotional stress, and our physiological stress. So things like gut health and sleep and things like that. So in terms of common themes, Alex, Tori, Courtney, what kind of common themes are you seeing with your clients in check-ins where you're needing to have those stress management conversations?
We see a lot of, I guess on my roster, I see a lot of definitely water retention. So the scale kind of climbing up when their calories shouldn't necessarily be causing that issue. Their energy balance on paper looks good, but we've got some other biofeedback red flags that aren't looking so good. So they're having a more symptomatic period than normal. Their scale is kind of climbing when it shouldn't be. They're struggling with sleep quality, sleep quantity, energy levels are shot. So just kind of the common telltale signs. Maybe they're getting sick more often than normal, brain fog, feeling like their workouts are super hard, even though they should be properly fueled for it. So just kind of some underlying things that maybe they would think, oh, I just didn't sleep very well, or maybe I didn't eat enough, but really the underlying issue is stress.
Yeah, and I think that's great to talk about just in terms of things that you're noticing in your clients to elicit those stress management conversations, because it's not always that a client is coming out and saying, hey, I am so super stressed. What can I do, to help mitigate this stress? A lot of times it's the coaches picking up on that stress, like a client that's not progressing in the gym, or a client that's constantly presenting with digestive issues, or they didn't get a menstrual cycle that month. Those are all telltale signs where we're saying, okay, something's got to give here in terms of stress management. So that's a really good point, Tori, just in terms of symptoms, if that's what we want to call it, presenting themselves in check-ins where we're needing to have those conversations.
It's interesting because the type A, or the people who are adapted to that high stress, they're never rating their stress a 4 or a 5. They're rating it a 1 or a 2, but you're picking up on it from their biofeedback and then their longer format responses. For anyone who's not familiar with our check-in process, we look at the data, your macros, your nutrition, your biofeedback from a number standpoint, but we ask 10 to 15 questions to kind of summarize your week. And so clients are often saying, well, this happened or that happened, and you notice their biofeedback's terrible, but they rated their stress a 1 or a 2, maybe a 3. And you're like, oh, I might consider that a 5 with everything that you explained that happened that week. But they kind of sweep it under the rug, and that's just their norm. That's what they're used to. And so they don't even recognize they need to manage anything, because they're like, this is my normal.
Yeah, and I feel like those like type A clients, it's so funny. I've talked about this before on some Instagram posts, but it's those like type A, high functioning, stressed out clients that are also presenting with like hypothyroid, PCOS, and you're like, I wonder if it's any coincidence that some of these illnesses are like stress-driven illnesses and you are addicted to doing things all the time, right? And that's where we see people struggle with like understanding that rest is productive. So many people equate rest to laziness or rest to, lack of discipline, when truth is rest is a very, very crucial part of the process. Courtney, what types of stress management have you been needing to talk with clients about?
I see this a lot in moms, because I work with a lot of moms and just feeling like you are, yes, just stretched
Yes,
thin
here.
and feeling guilty for taking time for yourself, whether that be some downtime to rest. And that's, again, that's the hardest, retraining your brain to rethink of what that rest is productive, but also recognizing that if you're not putting yourself first, if you're not taking care of yourself and doing, I always check in with clients and say, what are you doing to fill up your cup this week? What are you doing to take care of you? Because if you're not doing those things, you're not going to be able to show up for your people the way that you want to if you're burnt out, if you hit burnout. And so getting moms to make themselves a priority by getting the sleep, prioritizing their movement, prioritizing just their downtime or doing something for them. So that's a conversation that I have with a lot of my clients recently.
What would you guys say, I know that we have seen with clients, having to point out to them that there is a difference between the stressors that we can control and the stressors that we can't control. And I think part of what makes stress is feeling out of control. And so then that spirals into a lot of clients feeling like they cannot control the stress in their life. And then typically that means we start clinging onto other things for control, right? Whether that's exercise or our relationship with food. And so what types of things do you think clients don't realize that they do have control over, where they, just say, oh no, that's just something I don't have control over. That's always going to be something that's a stressor to me. But that you as the coach kind of feel like, no, we do have control over that. And here's why.
I call it stress resilience. So if you're practicing stress management techniques, that increases your stress resilience for the things that you can't control. We can't just all quit our job. We can't get rid of our family, like not that we would want to either, but we can also recognize that to some extent, kids can create stress. But when we practice stress management techniques and whether that be deep breathing or meditation or going out for walks or, mindfulness, that increases our stress resilience. So we can handle those stressors a lot better than we would typically, instead of feeling so out of control and scatterbrained all the time.
Courtney, a lot of those tools are also mindfulness tools. So recognizing when those thought patterns are coming up. So something can be a less than ideal situation, but your response to it is what is stressing you out. If
right,
hopefully that makes sense.
Exactly.
So controlling those spiraling thoughts, and preventing the slippery slope of, these are all things that I can't control. But you can control your response. Like you can't get rid of your family. You can't quit your job, but you can control your response to what is going on, or you could work to create a boundary around that.
Yes.
Which is another tool.
Really good to talk about. Yeah, absolutely.
And I feel like too, in that same vein, the list of things that are outside all of our controls is a 50,000 times longer list than the things that we do have control over. And so also reframing that for clients is like, you actually only have to worry about factors 1, 2, 3, 4, like your thoughts, your feelings, what food goes into your mouth, how you manage your time outside of your obligations and responsibilities. And that's actually a very small list. So you can actually release a lot of the stress that you are almost enduring on yourself, because you only have like a few things that you actually have control over, and then teaching the client to release control over the things they can't control.
I think that's a really good point of focusing on what you can control and letting the things go that you can't control. Because I think so many of us try and control the things we can't control, and that creates more stress. And so
or stress about the fact that we can't control it.
Exactly. So bringing that mindfulness in and that awareness to, like Alex said, how you're responding to those stressors can actually, like, you start to create awareness around your thought patterns. And so then we can stop those thought patterns and say, okay, I actually can't control this, so I need to let this go. What are the things that I can control? So I like that.
I think it's also really common that when we are really stressed as health and fitness coaches, we see that some of the first habits to go are our health and fitness related habits. So we get really stressed, and then we are feeling so emotionally exhausted that we don't want to hit the gym, or we're feeling so emotional that we're then using food to cope. And so we have all of these different stress management techniques that tend to not be very conducive to our health and fitness goals. Or there's the other extreme, which I briefly mentioned, that we cling to health and exercise for control. And then we have a really distorted relationship with food and relationship with exercise, because now we're using that as our only coping strategy for stress. So what are some of your top stress management techniques that you guys like to talk with clients about?
A walk.
Oh, walks are good.
A walk outside. I just had a client, I was cringing. I tell every client off the bat, no cardio, but you got to give me a 30-minute walk outside daily. And she's 11 weeks in, and she goes, well, there's this new thing on TikTok called a mental health walk. I've been telling you to go on mental health walks for 11 weeks. So, from a fresh air perspective, from a movement perspective, 15-minute walk can lower our blood pressure, can lower our blood sugar. Vitamin D, you're being exposed to nature. I mean, I have clients that they're like, well, I live downtown. I'm like, you're still being exposed to the environment. So I think a walk it's free. It's really effective on multiple levels, and it can help you practice mindfulness. And often I schedule it in during my lunch break, gets me outside of my office. So it's a nice break from work as well.
I love that. I find that with myself as well, Court, if I don't I tend to use my walks as like time to catch up on phone calls, like missed calls and things like that, or, knock that phone call out with mom and stuff like that. But I do find that if I'm really stressed, if I just use that 30-minute walk or whatever it is for myself, and no music, no podcast, no phone calls, and I'm just like, this needs to be like a half an hour just for Joelle, I feel like it makes such a difference when I get back from that walk. So I love that you're bringing that up with clients as well.
Yeah, I agree.
I have a couple of tips. One that I really like clients to do, especially if they feel like they are just juggling so much at one time, is to make what I call an overdue to-do list, where they just brain dump, like in a bullet point list, all the things that they have to do. They just open up a note in their phone. This is how I do it. They write down make dentist appointments, send tax documents, pay this bill, go grocery shopping, anything that they can think of, just dump it all into a list. It's almost always a shorter list than they are actually conceptualizing in their head. And then write down Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and drag and drop each of those bullet points, 2 or 3 of them, into each day. And then just stretch it out for however many days it's going to take to get to the bottom of that list. And they only have to worry about the 2 bullet points for each day instead of the 15 bullet points that they are just kind of dealing with decision fatigue. So that's something tangible that they can do. And the other thing is something I learned from a meditation program that I do and have done for a year to 2 years, is visualizing all of the tension in your body. If you're laying down in bed, before you go to sleep, or even if you wake up in the morning, just visualizing all the tension in your body as either light or particles or a color on your body, and then visualizing a vacuum either at your feet or at the crown of your head, and just letting it kind of suck all of that away. And visualization can be very powerful technique.
I like that.
Yeah.
love that. I love that. And I'm a huge fan of brain dumps. I tell clients to do that before bed. We have so many people that get in bed, right? And their minds are just like going a million miles a minute. Huge fan of a brain dump. I tell clients like keep a notebook right on your notstand and just if there's stuff in your head, there's something. And I feel like this is partly a visualization thing too, Tori, where like when I get it out of my head and on paper and I can like think about the fact that now it has left my mind, it has left my head, it is on paper. And then I very like, if I'm laying there and one of those like things comes right back across my mind, I'm like, nope, it's on the list. I don't need to think about it. And I can like visually remove it from my head because I know it's on paper and I can come back to it tomorrow. So kind of doubling as a stress management and a sleep tip, those brain dumps can be so super helpful. And I love that you mentioned usually it's a lot smaller a list than what it felt like in their head. Like you feel like alphabet soup in your head. And then you get it down and you're like, oh, it was actually like 3 or 4 things and I could probably get all of this done tomorrow, you know? So I think that that's a great call too.
And something that just occurred to me as well, stress is usually the elevation of your heart rate. So if you do anything that's going to lower that heart rate, whether it's just laying on the floor, like snow angel in the carpet kind of situation, just like something that's going to lower your heart rate, whether that's putting your phone aside, shutting your computer for like 30 seconds to a minute, just allowing your heart rate to slow down. That's why I think the heart rate monitors that everyone has, either an Oura Ring or a watch, can be so helpful because you can look at your heart rate or your HRV, which are, you know, analytics that we look at as coaches with clients. Like you can see, is my heart rate regularly elevated? What can I do on a day-to-day basis just for like 10 seconds at a time to bring that heart rate down?
Deep breathing, breath work. Something I always recommend to my clients is set a timer for 1 minute and count how many deep breaths you take. And so from that day on, you know, 10 deep breaths is a 1 minute timeout for me. And that's, you know, your internal clock. So you don't have to set an alarm that then is like beeping at you after a minute. And that might be a little bit stressful, but take a 1 minute timeout, whether it's to lay down, walk around your house, take a lap around the block, take some deep breaths, close your computer, remove yourself from the stress response.
Deep breathing is, oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Court.
I was just going to say the deep breathing is something that I find is easiest for people to implement because you can just, especially if it feels like, oh, I have to meditate. That's one more thing I have to do. And that feels stressful, or it's hard for you to commit to that. Just starting with paying attention to your breath at certain times throughout the day. So I'll have clients even kind of habit stack that. So like when you get in the car to, you know, go home from work, take 1 or 2 minutes and focus on your breath, or right before you eat lunch. That's a great time to kind of calm your nervous system because that's going to help improve your digestion. We know that stress affects digestion. So habit stacking that through different times throughout the day can be really, really helpful in getting clients to just like, again, train their nervous system to just be a little bit calmer throughout the day. So I like that.
I love that you also mentioned habit stacking, Court, because I think habit stacking in and of itself can almost be a stress management technique. You know, habit stacking, for anyone that's not familiar, is basically just stacking on a new habit that you're trying to establish with an already very established habit. So, you know, whether that is flossing while you are driving, maybe like at a stoplight or something, that's always an example that I give. But so in this case, stacking deep breaths or deep breathing onto a habit that you're already doing, like sitting in traffic, driving home from work. You know, maybe you're doing your deep breaths in the shower. That's something that you do every day. The other thing that I wanted to mention, if the little like pterodactyl behind me stops, she's just living her best life.
She's happy.
She's so happy. She's just sitting here playing. But apologies for the screeching. The other thing that I wanted to mention about stress management, I feel the number one like key to stress management is time management. And so much of our stress, I think, could be avoided. Obviously, besides things that are like personal stress and relationship stress and things like that. But so much of our stress comes from feeling like we don't have enough hours in the day, feeling like we don't have enough time to get things done. And so I talk to clients a lot about scheduling, whether that is scheduling out your workouts or scheduling out the time that you're going to go on your walks or scheduling out those deep breaths, snippets into your day or setting a reminder on your phone. So much of managing our stress comes down to managing our time better.
And I think we often think that the things from a health and wellness standpoint that we have to do need to take up hours and hours and hours and hours, when if we break them down, or we meal prep for 1 hour. Or I had a client who was a mom and felt like she was cooking for her family all day long, and I said, okay, well, when you cook lunch, can you also cook dinner so you don't feel like you have to clean up twice? And she was like, oh my gosh, that was a game changer and saved me so much time. Or you don't have to spend 2 hours in the gym 7 days a week. I think most of us encourage our clients to exercise 3 days a week for a roughly 45 minutes. And so some of my clients do that on the weekends when they feel like they have more time, or some of them feel like they do it on the weekdays after work and get it done, or before work. So just finding ways to fit things into your schedule. And like you said, Joelle, plan. Like I live by my Google Calendar. My walks are scheduled in daily. My grocery shopping on the weekends is scheduled in. Like there's nothing wrong with planning things out.
And if you do create that schedule and you are planning things out, you are way less likely to what I call cancel on yourself. And so if you schedule out your gym sessions, your training sessions, like you would a doctor's appointment that you wouldn't just bail on because you were stressed, you would go, right? Because you made that appointment. So I very much urge clients to make those appointments with themselves and to not bail on those appointments.
I think a lot of this is like, okay, they told me to go on a walk and plan out my day and manage my stress. It's easier said than done, of course, or everyone would manage their stress well. This is just like resistance training. This is something you have to practice and show up for and train yourself. It's not gonna magically get better in 1 week. You're not gonna have boundaries set in 1 week. You're not going to be a pro meditator. I mean, I've been meditating for 2 years. I do the calm app for 10 minutes every morning. I'm terrible. I'm like, oh, I was thinking the whole time. That's not, I'm practicing. I'm trying to be aware of those thoughts, not to not have thoughts at all. So don't get discouraged. Don't get overwhelmed. Pick 1 or 2 things. Maybe it's breath work and a walk. Maybe it's the brain dump and something, a journaling. Well, that's close to the same thing, or gratitude and brain dumping, and start small.
Yeah, the last thing that I just want to touch on is, as coaches, we are often talking to our clients about stress management. And a lot of times when we talk to clients about stress, we also have to mention, to Tori's point and Alex's point in the beginning about biofeedback and seeing stress present itself in, strength plateaus or poor sleep or poor digestion. We also have to remember that, when we say stress management is also sometimes spending time out of a deficit. Stress management is also getting enough sleep. Stress management is also fueling your body with nutrient-dense foods. Stress management is also making sure that you're resting and recovering from your workouts and that your training intensity or training load isn't too great for your ability recoveries or your caloric intake. So I just think it's also just important for people to understand that when coaches mention stress management, we're referring to total allostatic load. So all the stress that is at your body, coming at you. Training is a stressor, your sleep quality is a stressor, your food quality is a stressor. So when we talk stress, it's not just mental, emotional. For the sake of this call, that's mostly what we talked about this time. But understand that stress is multifaceted.
It's often those high stress people that also want to be in that chronic deficit. And just eating enough will reduce a big stress load on your body. Just getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep will allow your body to recharge. And I think then mentally you're able to handle some of the mental and emotional stress if you're actually sleeping and eating.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool, guys. Well, anything else to add? Any final thoughts before we wrap up here?
I think that's it.
All right, cool. Well, thank you again for joining us, everyone. We will put where you can find everyone and where you could potentially work with Level 10. We'll put everything in the description box. But thank you for tuning in. And Alex, Tori, and Courtney, thanks for chatting with me.